And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lounge. I'm Anthony Irwin of LakersDaily.com. I am joined on this fine Sunday evening by Raj Chapalu. I like to talk to him after wins. I like a happy Raj. I like
Mhm.
occasionally it's nice to talk to a Raj that's ready to like light everybody on fire and just kind of piss on the ashes. But occasionally, like more often than not, I prefer to talk to Raj when he's in this kind of state of mind. The Lakers went through their last 5 games that we were pretty nervous about, right, Raj? They
Mhm.
started with that Denver loss, beat OKC, then they lost to Sacramento. That one really annoys me. But then they beat Milwaukee and Minnesota back to back, and
Yeah.
then now they go on the second half of that like kind of tough 10-game schedule, right? They play Sacramento, Golden State, Atlanta, Philly, and Indiana before playing in Milwaukee again. And it's just there's a ton to kind of go over here and we will or whatever. But I wanted to start here. You were flaming me for how red I am. I was like, I am. I swear it's not a filter. I am just this red right now because I went outside for we in Texas were able to go outside for the first time in quite some time. And
Yeah.
apparently I need to start wearing sunscreen.
Shouldn't you be used to the sun? Isn't it like super hot in Texas? Like, doesn't it get like almost 100, 110 degrees out there? I feel like you should be used to it by now. But
It's a
yeah, your face
well,
looks red.
the thing is, it's like early to mid March, and it's pretty
Okay.
early for it to be this warm. It was supposed to be like 67 degrees today, but they were way off, and it was like 87 degrees today. So I was just baking out there in that sun. We went to like a kind of like a brunch get together at my brother
Mhm.
and sister in law's, and I was outside, basically all day, and my skin apparently was not prepared for it. I look
Yeah.
I don't know if this is very good for my skin long term. I've never worn sunscreen. I have it's not something I ever wear. I've never needed it. I burn occasionally or whatever, but like it's never that bad. I'm Mexican, so like I've just been able to kind of get by my entire life without needing it. And apparently that ended today. Like that is it. And yeah. So for those of you who are watching live, and I appreciate that you are, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. If you're watching on Twitter, please head on over to youtube.com/@LakersLounge and hit that subscribe button. And B, do not try to adjust your kind of screen settings. I am just this bright right now. I am
Right, right,
just like
yeah.
this kind of bright. Also bright though was this Lakers weekend. Like it was a great weekend for them. They beat
Yes.
the Milwaukee Bucks in incredible fashion without LeBron. They played with their food. I thought in this Minnesota game, I thought that was kind of I stayed away from it. I was thinking about betting the Lakers here because the Wolves were so depleted. The Lakers did wind up covering, but I didn't feel like sweating that out on a late Sunday evening. But
Right.
this weekend, and basically that's where I wanted to start. I know it says that we're going to start with Anthony Davis, and I promise we will. But this weekend, though, I think is kind of the big news story here, and what the Lakers like showed themselves to be capable of, both in terms of like their on-court talent, which I still believe in. I have always
Mhm.
believed in, but very importantly, it was a great Darvin Ham weekend, I thought.
Yes. Right, and so I see Anthony Bleepin Davis. I think his middle name is Marshawn, so I think you got that.
No,
Got
not after today.
that.
No.
No, it's changing to Bleepin.
Actually, I think it's Anthony Minnesota Davis because he
Gotcha.
owns that state now. It's Anthony Nasri Davis.
Right, and no, so you talked about the weekend, obviously the tough loss to Sacramento, but I was in the building, Anthony, for the one against Milwaukee. That crowd was electric, and that was obviously without LeBron. And I just love, I think, our pace of that game. Dame and Giannis are good enough to like give you a floor, but I just loved our defense. I thought Ruy was super physical in that one. Anthony Davis again, who had a tough fourth quarter because he hurt his shoulder. But like Anthony, did you see him like defend Giannis one-on-one? Giannis tried to go at him one-on-one. He was blocking him at the top of the key. And then that first quarter, he had like 11 points. set the freaking tone against Milwaukee, right? 10 points in that first quarter, hitting jump shots. Then obviously D'Lo just was masterful. It's tough to win when your backcourt's Malik Beasley and Damian Lillard. I just think defensively that gives you a tough time. But, D'Lo, again, just super masterful in that game-winning floater. And then you come into this game tonight, and I thought they really needed this one. And LeBron didn't really get off until the second half. I believe he had like 21 had 8 points in the first half. Really was able to chill until then. But the story, obviously, Anthony Davis, they have no one for him. And, I'll say this even with Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns healthy. I just don't think they have anyone for AD. Naz Reid had 1 rebound tonight, and there were a bunch of plays where he had him boxed out, Anthony, and AD was able to kind of just swim move him off him. Then he finishes with 25 rebounds. I always say on this show and others that the barometer for AD every single time, if you want to check, it's not his jump shots, how many went in. It's not how many points he had. It's not how many floaters, not how many out and one. Well, part of it is and ones, but to me, the barometer is always how many foul shots he had and how many offensive rebounds. To me, that's what shows if he physically dominated this game. 13 free throws tonight. He missed 4 of them. Was even taking our technical foul shots, which
I don't even
thought
care.
was interesting.
I don't get like shoot 13 free throws, get there.
Yeah, get to the line, and then I think he finished with 10 or 11 offensive rebounds. That showed me that he dominated this game. So AD was incredible. I think Darvin Ham coached a pretty good game as well. Besides taking Austin and LeBron out, taking D'Lo and Austin out at the same time. But great weekend. It feels like we are back, at least for this weekend. It feels good to finally get on a little tiny, win streak before a huge game against Sacramento coming up here.
So, I want to keep things positive for the most part here. I do have some like negative talking points later in the show, and
Sure.
we'll get to that eventually. But we do, however, have a super comment, which means we get to play this bad boy. If I find it, here we go. Justin Tyndall writes, "That's what a good coach looks like. Wolves' 3rd game in 4 nights, missing the front line, yet they had the lead after 3. If only we had a coach like that. Given the same circumstances, we lose by 40." I wanted to play that one more time just because I know that I promised that I was only going to make like kind of the negative points later. I'm only going to make this quickly, and we'll come back to it. 1, Chris Finch is just a better coach than Darvin Ham. Like that's not exactly breaking news there in any way. But what I would say though about like the ways that Finch is a better coach, and the way that like better NBA coaches in general are better than Darvin. And one of the places, I think the main place that the Lakers have really struggled with Darvin this year, and their just kind of general leadership, is kind of just like a fundamental lack of principles on either end of the court, right? If you're on offense and you have LeBron James and you have Anthony Davis and you have stretches where either or sometimes both of those guys are on the court and don't touch the ball it feels like they don't touch the ball in like 5 possessions, that's a coaching, that's a cultural problem that needs to be addressed. And then on the other end of it, like the way that they rebound the ball or the way that they don't attack rebounds, right? And some of like their misunderstandings and or just like kind of lack of clarity with that game plan that the guys have talked about all year. Like that's where that kind of stuff shows up. But that said, like this is a veteran team. Like that shot, the play that happened, was it at the end of the half or was it at the end? It was the end of the 3rd quarter when they took the lead.
The Luka Garza one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's just like everything about that I thought was just a perfect encapsulation of kind of the frustrations with this culture, right? With the way that this team approaches the sport. Went too early, took a bad shot, the wrong guy took the shot, and then you don't get back on defense, you give up a bucket, and you go into the 4th quarter actually down when you went into the 3rd quarter up by, was it 7 or 8, right? And you probably should have entered the 4th quarter with like a double-digit lead and should have been able to cruise to victory here. Like those are the things that, given the portion of the year that they're at, kind of adds up. And like this should have been a game that LeBron and AD should have been able to sit the fourth quarter for, right? Like if you just look at the talent between the two teams that was available for this game, LeBron and AD should have been able to take the night, that fourth quarter off. And I thought that, like, all the turnovers felt like mental lapses. And, I think Minnesota, midway through the first or the second quarter, had shot like 8 more shots than the Lakers did. And
Yeah,
and
the
it was just like,
turnovers.
they were getting so many more possessions. And, you need to buckle down in games like this. Eventually they
Yeah.
did. And it looked overwhelming when they did. But this was the kind of game that, like, you're going into it, you're saying, like, all right, just get in, kick their ass, rest for a little bit, and get ready for your next one, which is against the Sacramento team in Sacramento that you just lost to.
So at least they have 2 days off. And before I start, so shout out Justin with the super chat. I was so excited, Anthony, because I thought this was a positive Darvin Ham post. It said this is what a good coach looks like, and I thought he was gonna give Darvin a little bit of props here, but he went the other route and went and complimented Chris Finch. No, but what I would say to that for a few things. Number one, I thought at least LeBron took most of the first half off, right? Just in
Yeah,
terms
that's
of
fair.
his defensive engagement, right? And obviously his offense, what he was taking was spot up threes, which again is totally fine if he wants to do that. There are games where he's going to have to, and I'm sure LeBron saw the schedule. It was like no Towns tonight, no Gobert. Yeah, first half, I probably don't need to, turn the accelerator on, and I can push in the second half. Number two, I think this team really goes how LeBron's effort is. So they have a kind of bad habit
Yeah.
of going on his energy. And I think the Wolves, they obviously missing two of those guys, but they're a good team. Like they're a top seed. They're still tough. Anthony Edwards came out, came out aggressive in the third quarter. Naz Reid was incredible, 21 first half points. And guys like Naz Reid break our defensive game plan, right? So our defensive game plan is number one, always to funnel to Anthony Davis, right? And then number two, we pick a guy to leave open. So tonight it was Jordan McLaughlin. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. McLaughlin had threes, I believe, in the first half. And that's I think he's like a 28% catch and shoot 3-point shooter, a guy that we kind of live with. And some of those are like, Austin, you really don't need to help because you helping doesn't really change what happens on the play, like you being in help situation. But
it's
some
so
of that
frustrating. Austin Reeves operates on defense like he's Anthony Davis on the weak side, when
yes,
it's just like you're hurting more than you're helping when you help on defense.
No, 100%. Well, I think what it is, Darvin Ham just goes, all right, Jordan McLaughlin, leave him open. He's not really telling Austin specifically, but Austin ends up on him, and he's the guy that comes off. And I loved our third. I tweeted at halftime. I thought the adjustment should have been put LeBron on Naz Reid and put AD on Jaden McDaniels. That's not exactly what we did. We put Ruy on Naz Reid, but same kind of idea there. I thought that changed the game. We went up 13, and then Darvin, for some reason, took D'Lo and LeBron out, and then Minnesota upped their ball pressure. So I upped their ball pressure, which I thought kind of got them back into it on a 20-5 run. But then, LeBron took over in the fourth. But yeah, so those are my little, just small, I don't know about pushback, but nudges at least back in terms of like where, that's a, I guess a culture issue. Like I think when your best players 39 years old, like you're going to have lapses in effort. It's going to wax and wane when one of your guys just doesn't come through in that way. But I've loved our process this whole pretty much weekend, except for the Kings game. Like I thought we played Denver well. We beat OKC. Obviously we beat Minnesota tonight. We beat Milwaukee. Like I've liked our process, Anthony, and the office is starting to click. They just need to play a little bit better transition defense for sure. But I've really liked our process so far.
Well, but like that is kind of the cultural thing, right? You have a 39-year-old superstar. Your team shouldn't rely on him to set the tone every night,
that's fair.
right? Like,
yeah,
your coaching staff should be able to go to the younger guys and be like, "Hey, that guy's 39, man. Like
he gets to
is
do that.
doing stuff at an unprecedented rate. At that age that he is playing at right now, we need you guys to pick him up more often. He needs to pick you guys up,
Sure.
And that's where I would say, like, I tweeted that I think that this culture is kind of lacking. And you compare it to, like, I think like the nth degree example is Miami's Heat culture thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's literally a jersey for them, right? Like it's literally a thematic presentation that they offer up with their jersey, with their court. and all of these things. And, we can kind of laugh at it and how ridiculous it is that they wear a jersey that says Heat culture on it, but they pride themselves on it. Spoelstra whips those dudes into a frenzy, especially that supporting cast. And you get guys who completely outperform their actual abilities because they all play so freaking hard all the time. And I think, with like the rebounding thing earlier this year, they I think Darvin Ham talked about a stat that they look at in film, and then it's something that their coaching staff tracks, and it's like their first step after the shot goes up, and like tracking how active these guys are and their habits when the shot goes up, right? It's like, okay, you're tracking it. You are aware that this is a problem. Are you not like punishing dudes when they don't abide by like the rule that like you need to box out? You need to make a step towards towards a dude and maybe not like wander towards the basket. All of these things that, yeah, it sounds great to say that you're tracking it, but it's empty words. It's empty tracking if you aren't actually doing it. There isn't any follow-up to what you're doing there. And I think with with the way that this team is built, and I know that like some of it is like personnel, right? Some of it is D'Angelo Russell, not a high motor guy.
Nope.
Taurean Prince, not a high motor guy. Although he got up tonight and had that block today. I was like,
Incredible.
where has that been, Torian? Ruy, his motor is kind of based completely on whether or not he is scoring. Tonight he was knocking down threes, and I thought he was more active as a result. And like sometimes you'll play guys with higher motors, but they don't have like an extreme Alex Caruso motor, right? They don't have like an extreme, like what are other examples of just crazy motor guys?
I put Vando in there.
Yeah, there you go. Vando. Yeah. All right. So like you need more guys who kind of approach the game the way that Vando does. And I think that is something that you can kind of that's a tone that you can set to get guys to play above their motor, to raise their motor to there's only so much. I think there are physical limitations and kind of psychological limitations to what various motors can do. Schroeder's Allen is using Schroeder as an example there as well. Like I think that like that is where I wish this coaching staff would really get on role players. Like you need to, like, this is Taurean Prince. There's no real excuse, especially if he's playing fewer minutes. You got to play on infinite turbo mode. You got to be like Corey Brewer mode out there, right? Remember Corey Brewer would just sprint everywhere, like for no reason. Like you would just like sprint to get water. Like screw it, I am running fast. and this is like the way that the Lakers played this one, and like this is the thing. And I know somebody Daniel is a perfectly fair point to say that the Lakers won. I promise I will get back to the positives here in a second. It's just
you're getting more red somehow.
I know. It's like by the time I end, like I'm gonna look like Aries. But like I just like this is the kind of game that you should have been able to end quickly, and you should have been able to just like get in, get out of. And I thought that the way that the Lakers were playing, like they knew that they could outscore them. They knew that they could score on Minnesota, like whenever they really felt like it, and just kind of let Minnesota hang around for a little too long,
Sure.
And it wound up not mattering. The Lakers were at such a talent advantage here that they were able to take care of business by the end of the game. But like this is the spot where whether it's Darvin next year or whether it's somebody else, I think one thing that the coach of the Los Angeles Lakers needs to like figure out next year is like some way to get these guys to not require LeBron James to set your tone night in, night out.
Yeah, and just to keep it like full circle, I feel like Anthony Davis should be able to do that. This dude's having a 25 and 25 ball game. He should be able to set your tone defensively. And man, Anthony, just even seeing it in person, the amount of stuff that AD makes up for on a possession by possession basis is absolutely absurd. Every time someone turns their head the wrong way, right? Every time someone ges blown by, our guards reach a ton. They gamble a lot for steals, and it looks pretty when they get it. But when they don't, guys blow by them, and Anthony Davis has to cover for that. And he's getting fouled at the rim. So thought he was incredible. I'm hopeful like the defensive intensity kind of ups as we keep going here. I like this team. But like you look in the summer, Anthony, if you remember the conversations around this team, this was supposed to be a potent offense, right? That can defend at a baseline level. AD covers for your defense, and you have a potent offense. Ever since Rui's been inserted, we're like a top offense, like since he's been inserted into that starting lineup. And I think you're starting to kind of see that theory. And to
You
your
mean
point
to
about
tell me, Raj, playing your most talented offensive players would lead to a good offense?
just trying to keep it
Hold
positive
on.
tonight.
Hold on. I need a second. Hold on. Wow.
Do you need to fact check that?
We landed on the moon.
Do you need to like check with a source on that just to make sure that goes that's true?
Should I call Aaron like on the air? Hey,
yeah.
Aaron, is it true that if you play your best offensive players,
your offense gets better?
Looks better?
Right. Yeah. Gotta ask. But yeah, that lineup is now 10-3, and like since they become starters, which is a really good. Like that sounds like a small sample, but it's really not. Over like 10% of the season, you're using that starting lineup, so they've played pretty well. I love the ball movement. Right. They were trapping ball screens early with LeBron, and AD was catching on the short roll and doing passes he just never did in previous seasons, like catching it quick swing to the opposite corner. I was like, wow, where did AD get that? And like the offense is starting to hum, and so hopefully defense catches up. But I think when you start a backcourt of Austin and D'Lo, and it's similar that Milwaukee's kind of going through this. Obviously, D'Lo's not Dame, maybe in a better way, but like it's strangely D'Lo's not Dame in a better sense of the term. But yeah, they're going through the same thing where your backcourt is just so limited defensively that if your front court guys aren't engaged, you're gonna have a tough time playing defense. But yeah, I really like the process going forward. We're still the 9th seed, so it's not a ton of positivity, but yeah, I've liked what they're doing so far for sure.
Yeah, I like I said, I am going to get back. Like we have to talk about Anthony Davis. Like you, I'm glad that you offer us the segue to talk about him. You mentioned like the stuff here, not Harrison, the stuff, Raj, that like if you just watch, if you watch a team play their offense, run their offense when Anthony Davis is out there versus when he's not, the goals are different, right? When AD is out there, it's basically like do whatever you can to get into the paint, but the goal is to basically kick out to an open 3-point shooter because you're not going to do anything at the rim, right? And then when he isn't in there, it's like get whatever you can at the rim while he isn't out there, right? And you watch guys, it's not even a matter of, this is not a trackable stat, I don't think, but you watch guys, they will get a shoulder by their guy, and when AD is out there, the point is to get into the paint, collapse the defense, and then kick it out. And then ideally you go hockey assist to an open corner 3-point shooter, right? And then when AD isn't out there, it's like, I got a shoulder by somebody. Jackson Hayes is either going to foul me or nobody is going to be there flat out. And I'm going to, I'm going to score here. Right. And that, like, again, foundational difference, the way that like he is literally, individually shifting the entire goals of these these professional offenses with like really high caliber professional basketball players. And it's just by him being out there. And then on top of that, like on a game like tonight, he's doing all of that. And then he's also actually executing and finishing those plays. Anthony Davis' stat line tonight, not a typo. And this is the first ever stat line like it. Anthony Davis finishes in 39 minutes, 27 points, 25 rebounds, 10 of them being on the offensive side of the ball. 5 assists, 7 steals, and 3 blocks. He came 2 blocks short of the greatest 5x5 that has ever happened. He was a plus 15 on the night. He got to the line, like you said, 13 times, made 9 of them. 9 of 17 from the floor. Like, it was just unbelievable, the stuff that he was doing out there. And obviously, like, the disclaimer that is worth pointing out here is that the Wolves didn't have Rudy Gobert and didn't have Karl Anthony Towns. Though I like people acting as if Karl Anthony Towns would have stopped this kind of a performance from AD. Like Karl Anthony Towns would have had anything to say about that whatsoever if AD approached the game this way. And I actually think he's a pretty good representation of this Lakers team, because it's like, I know what Anthony Davis is capable of. I know what he can do when he like really goes about his business and all this stuff. The fact that AD was able to play basically one-handed in that at the end of that Milwaukee game and help that defense allow the Lakers and allow D'Angelo Russell to get back into it the way that they did those last couple of minutes. That was with one arm against, like, quite possibly the most imposing physical force in the sport in Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? And then tonight, when he has the use of both of his arms, he just completely dominates the Minnesota Timberwolves in a way that, like, has never happened before. Literally, like, the stat line that we just watched tonight has never happened before. And that's why when he has those games like he did against Domantas Sabonis, every time he's played against Domantas Sabonis, and against Jokic and against those kind of bigger hulking centers and stuff, this is why those games hurt so much more. It's because, like, I have always said Anthony Davis is probably going to go down as one of, like, the 5 most talented basketball players I have ever seen wear a Lakers uniform, right?
Yeah.
It's Kobe. It's and like Magic was a little before my time. I was born in 86, right? And really only started paying close attention to basketball in probably 90 or 91. And that was after Magic's time. We have like Kobe, you have LeBron, you have Anthony Davis. And that's the list in my lifetime,
Yeah.
And this game is and the reason I say he's like such a really good representation of the Lakers is because I know that they're this talented too. When they felt like overwhelming the Timberwolves, they overwhelmed the Timberwolves. Like, when they just felt like, oh shoot, that's right, we got to defend. They defended, and like Minnesota looked completely hapless out there.
Yeah, no, he's a generational defender. And there was a possession, and not to keep going back to this Bucks game, it's just Giannis is another guy, Anthony, that you see in person, and you're like, that guy should not move like that.
Sense.
Yeah, that should not. He should not move. And I felt that same way about watching LeBron for the first time, and Giannis is in that similar fashion where he got a rebound. I remember dribbled up the floor, crossover Euroed into a layup. I was like, that's not fair. And like the guy back was D'Lo, it's like, what is D'Lo going to do there? And my point with that is there's like 2 possessions. AD guarded Giannis one-on-one. And I think was able to stop him at the top of his shot. And the next possession switched on a Dame. And I know Dame's one of my favorite non-Lakers. So it's tough for me to say that, but Dame's obviously not, where he was in his prime, but to be able to switch on Dame and stay with him and, be able to contest him at the rim, there's just not a lot of guys who can do that. And with Minnesota, I remember there was a podcast last year where I talked about the Suns, and you said, Raj says bring on KD or something like that. I'm not doing that with Minnesota just yet, but I do like our matchups against Minnesota. Like the teams that give AD trouble aren't just these defensive centers. It's these defensive centers with a lot in their back pocket, and Gobert just doesn't have that. And this is the team where I think AD and LeBron just have really favorable matchups against them, because Jaden McDaniels, another awesome all-NBA level type of defender, he again just doesn't have enough size to guard LeBron. When LeBron wanted to go by him and get to the rim, he could. And Gobert can be there and stand there and be big and help. I also think Gobert is more of a regular season floor raiser than a playoff kind of ceiling guy, just in terms of how the playoffs has worked out the last decade with Gobert in them, in terms of how people pick on him in ball screens. But I really like our matchups against him. And if you put guys who can't, I know the word bully isn't correct, but be physical with AD. Like and Towns isn't really that way either. Guys, if you can't be physical with AD, he can dominate you like this. And he was very clear. He knew that Naz Reid, even though Naz Reid was just drilling 3-pointers on the other end, AD knew that. Like, that's why this was the most mad I've seen AD. Anthony, there was a play where he got a 5-second count or in the paint, right? Or a 3-second count in the paint, and he slammed the ball down because Dinwiddie would not throw the post entry. He's like, dude, I have this guy at the rim. Give me the damn ball. And so I think Minnesota is the team that he.
Austin
So,
missed a
mhm,
post entry pass too, and that's the thing where I was just like, that's that's the emotion I want to see from AD every game.
fair.
If he has
Mhm.
that kind of like, it's not. I understand like his jumper in particular is going to come and go and come and come and go and um that sounds way worse in the reverse. Um, but like I pause. But like
Oh, man.
the defense, right, also is something that like is heavily predicated on the way that the guys around him are defending, right? If it's just a layup line and everybody is able to get by their guy, Anthony Davis can only kind of do so much. But in
Sure.
terms of just emotional and psychological approach to the game, I want to see Anthony Davis. Yeah, like I love it when Anthony Davis is screaming at guys for not getting him the ball. You know,
Yeah.
I like Austin. Like Austin is kind of one of my favorite dudes in that locker room, um and yet I want to see AD like give me the fucking ball. I
Mhm.
have like the biggest guy on the court after Naz Reid switched on to somebody else was TJ Warren. I have TJ
Yes.
Warren on me. He wasn't employed last week. Give me the ball, you know? And like that's the kind of stuff that like and that's the kind of like, and by the way, I think that resonates with Austin. I think that resonates with D'Lo. When those guys see that Anthony Davis wants the ball, that makes them say like, oh, okay, sorry, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
like I don't care who you are. If a 7-foot chisel dude screams at you, give me the fucking ball, you're gonna like go, oh, okay, sorry, I'm sorry, I'll get you the ball next time. And I think that also like I think those moments where AD looks kind of solely to set screens and be
Yeah.
the handoff guy and DHOs and
Yep.
all of that stuff. I actually think that kind of wears on the guards kind of emotionally because they're like, no, you're Anthony Davis. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
can we get you the ball? Can you take over here? Can you at least try to get a shot up? And when he has a game like this, and when those guys sense that he is having that kind of a game and he wants the ball, I think it really ups the amount of give a bleep on offense
Yeah.
and intuitiveness to like what should be accomplished on offense.
And it's not just him getting the ball right. It's a mentality thing. Like there were, and it's very clear. It's tough to psychoanalyze dudes, but it's very clear against Denver, against Sacramento, against teams with these big bruising centers. And then he loses his confidence, right? Offensively, it's not just a I don't get the ball. It's a, even when I get the ball, I'm not looking at the rim. I'm not looking to be aggressive. One of my favorite plays tonight, Naz Reid, whether it's a foul or not, I thought he got fouled, but Naz Reid gets 2 blocks in a row, right, on him in the paint.
Yeah.
Naz Reid gets, they called it clean. And we get the ball back, and Anthony Davis gets it back. And what he does is he goes right back at him, right in the rim, and they call the foul on Naz Reid. I think that's Naz's 3rd foul. I just love that mentality. Like you get blocked twice, so what? Go shoot
Yeah.
again. You missed the shot, shoot again. And to your point about Anthony Davis screaming and hollering and stuff, hollering in a good way. Like it, like the way the place where I see him scream the most, and this is goes back to my barometer point, is when he gets an offensive rebound putback. You won't see him yell any louder than when he gets a putback dunk or a putback and one foul. That's where like
It
he gets the
always
most
gets him
excited.
going. It
Yes,
always gets him going.
Right. It's something about that. Like it's something about him dominating the glass. Like it just gets him physically pumped and engaged into the ball game. So like that's to me his barometer. We got to find a way to get that going on a consistent basis. And again, like I understand against Sabonis, Nurkic, Jokic, those are tough things for him to dominate the glass while defending the pick and roll how he does. But there's got to be other ways to keep him engaged. Like you said, put him in the post. Doesn't always have to be a dribble handoff. Doesn't always have to be a pick and roll. You can clear side, let him get the ball in different ways. And he's become too good a passer to be this uninvolved sometimes in our offense. But again, he's on a nice stretch here. This Sacramento game's huge. I think he knows it too, right, Anthony? Like he knows the Sabonis matchup has been
I sure hope
lopsided in
so.
terms of win losses, and then
You
his
don't have to put a disclaimer. It's been he's 0-9 against
0-9.
Sabonis.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
it's you don't have to like It's lopsided. No. He's gotten his ass kicked by Domantas Sabonis. It's fine.
Okay.
I don't think
Yes,
you're
yes, yes.
hurt his feelings for saying that.
No, I'm not. Yeah, you're right. But yes, I think he knows this as well. So I think he knows that this is a big matchup for him, and hopefully with 2 days off, he's able to come in and dominate a huge game. If Milwaukee beats Sacramento tomorrow on Tuesday, and then it'll be Sacramento on a back-to-back in Los Angeles after playing the Bucks. Big game can put us, I believe, tied for 8th, Anthony, even with or tied for 7th maybe, or 8th, yeah, because I think someone else is ahead of us, but. Either or, like put us back in that top of the playing mix. Huge game on Wednesday.
Well, that's actually another great segue here. Raj, you're doing your job really well here. Like, look at you go. The Lakers now sit 6 games above 500, and this has felt like those games where you get down by like 15 points or so, and then you try to climb back into it, and either you take the lead or you don't. And if you don't, you wind up losing by like 9 or 11 points or something like that. And then if you do take the lead, it becomes like a dogfight from that point on. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but it's a lot closer. And the difference is a couple points, right?
Sure.
You can whittle that 15-point deficit to 1 point. And whether or not you make that shot that allows you to take the lead and kind of clear that hump kind of dictates how the rest of that game is going to go. And I've always kind of looked at, or I've started looking at the 6-game mark over 500 as that weird, stupid hump, because they've gotten to 5 games above 500, I believe 3 or 4 times over the course of the season to this point. And then every time they get there, they lose. And then, sometimes they lose again, and then you have to do that much work to get to 5 games above 500. In this case, they finally are now 6 games above 500 for the first time all season. And you look at the teams that they have played now, obviously a shorthanded Minnesota team. And that is worth pointing out here. But the other teams that they have beaten here, right? Milwaukee, you beat Milwaukee while you were shorthanded. That's a huge win there for the Lakers. You beat Oklahoma City and maintained your kind of weird dominance over them this year. You messed around a little too much against Washington. You probably shouldn't have needed to go to overtime against them. You beat the Clippers, right? And it's a team that all year we have been waiting for them to get serious, right? All year we have been, and Anthony Davis said the other day that like they don't care about seeding. It's just a matter of like being healthy by the time you get into the playoffs. It's like, okay, cool. If that's how you felt about it, I would have skipped 82 games personally, but whatever. I don't think I can get myself to believe that they are turning a corner until like I really fully believe it, but I also would understand people asking that question and answering with optimism.
Yeah. I think the offense has definitely has turned the corner. It's definitely got, to whatever that saying means, like going on the correct street. Like I think the offense has definitely turned the corner. They are playing much more organized basketball than they were. And a lot of this is just inserting another threat out there that can like pass, handle, and shoot. Like that's what Ruy and Torian can fill that a little bit. I just think he gives up so much on the other end. And Torian to me is not a good ball handler. He's not a really good. He's kind of wild on drives, and his shots kind of wax and wane too much for me. But just inserting Ruy into there, it feels like our offense has really clicked. And even off the bench, I think Torian's found a nice role coming off the bench. D'Lo is probably a huge part of this as well. We've kind of gotten back the D'Lo we traded for. I think we kind of lost that a little bit during the season, but D'Lo's confidence and his swagger, Anthony, and his moxie has just, I feel like, taken the team up a notch. Like the whole team kind of goes with him. It's wild. We're in a universe where LeBron is doing the ice in my veins celebration with D'Angelo Russell. That's just insane. But you could tell that D'Lo's a guy that the stars connect with. I don't know if you've got to hear it yet, but D'Lo had AD on his podcast, and it's very clear they're not just friends. They talk basketball in a deep, like connected way, like not just who scored points or who was dominant. It's kind of like these are the defensive coverages that we should be in. Like when they're defending us this way, this is the way we should counter it. Those are the conversations that D'Lo and AD have, and it's clear like he's a guy that teams really like. And I think he's a big part of our offense clicking. Like him being the other facilitator next to LeBron. I think we tried Austin in that role, and I think again tonight you saw the shortcomings of that. Austin's been awesome as a shot maker. I just think him as a creator has kind of hurt our offensive process, but that's really
Yeah.
upped it. D'Lo is taking one-legged step back threes, and their shots, everyone's like, yeah, it's okay. Like that's shots he's taking now. And I'm like, again, in the playoffs, we'll see if that's sustainable. But I think that's really upped our offense. And defensively, obviously, AD has carried. And I think just putting a big physical dude next to you say this all the time, just like throw strengths on strength, like put a big physical dude next to LeBron and AD, and it's tough. I thought our
Yeah.
defensive process was good against Minnesota this first half. They hit a lot of tough twos, Anthony, over AD, I thought, to start this game. And then the Jordan McLaughlin threes and Naz Reid hitting, 5 threes, I believe, in the first half or whatever, kind of masked. I thought like our defensive process was okay. So I don't know if they've turned a full corner because this team is very like they can go on the road in Sacramento and get 30 piece because they just saw that the first quarter didn't go their way. And Sacramento has a habit of doing that to us where they'll just run us off the floor. But I think our offense has turned a corner, and I think that means something. I think this team was supposed to be a potent offense, and you're starting to see what it looks like when D'Lo has it going. Austin is hitting his spot up threes, and Ruy is being really confident. Minnesota's game plan today was to leave Ruy open. It felt very Memphis-y, where they were like, we're going to let Ruy Hachimura take a bunch of shots, and Rui's like, thank you very much. I'll hit all these open threes, and I'll burn you. And yeah, that's the kind of that was the theory, that was the dream, that was the I think plan of what this roster build was, and I think you're starting to see it come to fruition a little bit. I'm hoping Vando comes back. Gabe Vincent, I think, still is on the team. Gabe Vincent, by the way, is a guy LeBron talks to a lot on the bench. You noticed that being at the game. That's a guy they have a lot of conversations back and forth. So I thought that was interesting. But
Oh, you're still here. Oh, I'm LeBron.
No.
That is really cool. They keep letting you sit with the team. That's really nice. That's cool program that they're running. I think the starting point that you mentioned there is an important one. You swap out a $4.5 million player for an $18 million player, and
Simple.
crazy, and by the way, like I'll also cop to the fact that like I thought that it made some sense to start Taurean Prince at the top at the beginning of the year. I thought we should have learned a lot quicker that wasn't that combination, that 3-man combination wasn't good enough defensively. And they weren't good enough offensively to make up for how bad they were defensively, and they should have moved off it sooner, right? But they found the starting lineup. They are now 10-5 since Ruy was inserted into the starting group. And I also just kind of think that in the locker room, how am I going to say this carefully because I want to write about it? But like in that locker room, the guys from last year, like having 5 guys from that run in your starting 5 and playing their most minutes together really kind of eases tensions in that locker room in a very important way, right? And you combine that with those guys just being better at basketball than the guys who were starting at various points this year, and you're kind of seeing the net result there. So like all year, basically, I have been looking for this season's version of the Russell Westbrook trade, where you make a very obvious adjustment to your approach here, and it makes your team better. And maybe I overlooked it with them inserting Ruy into the starting lineup and everything falling into place kind of after that. They've still managed to trick away some games, and their kind of fundamental approach to the sport is such that they are occasionally going to they are still very capable of pissing us off. I thought like there were points in this game tonight where I was like, God, they're going to lose this thing. They're gonna like they're gonna beat
Yeah,
Milwaukee and they're gonna lose this game against the shorthanded Wolves team, but they did enough to figure it out and eventually beat them with that overwhelming talent. And I really think that kind of starting Ruy and playing your 5 most talented basketball players together more minutes than everybody else is that Russell Westbrook trade. It is that very obvious and glaring move that helps unlock the rest of this team. And in that way, I'm
yeah,
willing to acknowledge the possibility that this team, this organization has turned at least that corner. Whether they have turned the corner, right? Like the the hypothetical, the important corner, that remains to be seen. I think we need to see more consistency before we address that possibility. But
yeah,
in terms of like they've put their blinker on, is what I would
yeah.
say. They inserted Ruy into the starting lineup and they've put their blinker on and they're looking in their blind spot to be able to get into that right turn corner, because like that's that was the important next step that they needed to make.
And I think just going along with your car analogy, like I think LeBron and AD are the ones in those driver's seats, and I think they believe in this team. Like I just when I
Yeah.
watch them, they don't look like a team that doesn't feel this team can win. And you put this team 7 because that's really or 7-8. The playoffs are really a 7.5, 8-man rotation lineup. I feel like you put them against most of the West. I feel comfortable with that against any of these top seeds. Even like Denver's obviously the one that we struggle with. Like in terms of their lineups, but I believe like LeBron and AD believe in this team, and just a few more just points from
that
this
unit.
game.
They
That
believe
unit,
in
yeah,
that unit.
yes. Well, these are like I have no fears about Austin or Rui in big games. Like, and that's a big thing to say about role player guys, right? I have some fears of D'Lo in big games in terms of like big playoff style matchups, or not in terms of if he'll be there for it. Just there's a physicality baseline that the players get to, that the playoffs get to, that D'Lo just that threshold he can't get past. But Austin and Rui, I have no issues about that, and that's huge to say that about 2 role player guys that you have locked in. I think Vando will give you what you have defensively. And I think another like player I just want to shout out from this game, I think Jackson Hayes is like a really underrated like part of what's going on with this team. It's strange, Anthony, because I think he's one of the most uncoordinated athletic dudes I've ever seen. Like it's the most, I don't mean that in a mean way at all. It's just the
Yeah, no,
coordination
totally didn't come off
just
that way, Rush.
no, yeah, I'm sorry. I just because I don't speak that way, but like it's just the coordination is off. Like he catches, sometimes he'll catch it on the move, and you could tell like his decision is already made. No matter what's going on around him, I'm doing a 2-step flying dunk. It's like Jackson Hayes, you're like wide open. There's 2 people under the rim, or like the situation just doesn't call for what you're going for. But like his athletic, like he just raises our athletic floor to a place where his role has become so simplified. He's like, I'm just gonna roll hard and dunk. Now, whatever happens after that, I have no responsibility for. But it's helped the team a ton. Like D'Lo's finding him on these slip passes where Jackson Hayes, I love
think
watching
D'Lo
him
really
play.
likes playing with Jackson.
Oh, and I think Jackson loves it too. And Jackson has this like very childish, like where he just doesn't he doesn't believe the ball got to him. Like he's so shocked it's in his hands, and then he'll go up and and he'll go up and finish. And and the other thing though, like Jackson Hayes allows us to switch more. And against Minnesota tonight, because of what Naz Reid was doing, we played more 2 big lineups, and that's something you've been asking for. And what Hayes was allowing us to do was switch those Anthony Edwards pick and rolls. And like this is stuff that you talk about where like I know it's in you. Where is it 90% of the time? This is Anthony freaking Edwards, who's in MVP conversations, who's blowing by dudes, crossing over, getting dudes on the floor all the time. I'm getting too hyped for Jackson Hayes praise, but like Jackson Hayes is in his defensive stance, like staying with him, contesting high, not going for pump fakes. Like I think he's like really helped like this team, especially with Christian Wood out. And I liked his game a lot. Torian actually closed this game. We went to the awful Austin D'Lo Torian lineup to close this unit, which scared me a little bit. But I think just Torian off the bench has helped just the overall like the lineups balance a little bit better. Max Christie got a first half stint, which I guess I should be happy about, and just like be happy he got a first half stint at least. But yeah, I've liked the some of the rotation. Obviously tonight was tough, but Minnesota's a good team, and that's a tough team to just blow off your floor, especially with Naz Reid playing the way he did. I like where this team's going. We'll see what the destination is. I like where they're I like the road they're heading at. So hopefully that turn signal becomes just a full on where they cut off the cars behind them and they're just like, I'm getting in this right lane. I don't care. I'm going in. I'm turning the corner. And they have some teams that cut off in that regard. But I really like this team, Anthony. I think this is what we envisioned. They're 10-4 or something, and since January, the end of January, like they're playing well with a lot of bad teams coming on the schedule here. They have a chance to make up a lot of ground.
Are you an aggressive driver?
I'm actually like a very safe driver to the point where people get really upset, right? They're like, like, Raj,
I
you have
can
more
see
than
it.
enough. Yeah, they're like, Raj, you have more than enough space. I'm like, no, I'll just wait till the light, turns up because you can kind of fit and cut into that right lane. I'm a very safe driver, but I'll get you to A and B in one piece. I might not get you there like as quick as you
On
want, but
time, or
I'm a person who leaves early, so I'm very timely. Like if people will say be there 5:30, like I'm there 5:30. I just leave probably 10 minutes earlier than I need to be. But
5:30 the previous morning.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I am an aggressive driver. I will go ahead
Okay.
and cop to that. I
Okay.
honked at people for going way underneath the speed limit today, and Jim was like, "Why are you honking? Nobody's coming in your lane." I was like, "They're going 30 and a 50. Like,
I,
you don't
I don't
honk
understand.
here?
I don't understand honking. Like I don't think I've been driving for as
You've
long as I
never
have.
honked?
Probably honk like once in like 7, 8 years. Like I just don't understand. It doesn't change anything to me. It
It
just
does
gets your
too.
it gets your rage out, I guess. But like it doesn't the action already happened. Unless you're
No.
behind someone, they haven't moved, I guess, for a long time. Like I guess that's the reasoning. I've
Yeah,
never.
there's that, and then like if somebody is like if somebody's like cutting you off, right, and you're in the next
Okay.
lane, and like you honk and you make sure that they don't cut you off like that. That's
Okay.
effective.
Okay. Yeah. It's like driving one on one.
What's this button in the middle of my driving thing? Like, no, I think the Hayes stuff is really important here. Interesting. We should probably get a Christian Wood update this week. It's been 2 weeks. We are in that 2 week range that we're supposed to get an update on his availability, or he should be able to maybe start becoming more available. So we'll see what that looks like. But we talked about Jared Vanderbilt's motor and kind of the lack sometimes of motor on this team. And, I think Hayes has some of that Labrador to him where like the motor can sometimes get away from him a little bit and he gets a little too excited with some stuff. But given the way that a lot of the rest of these guys approach the sport, I'm actually fine having somebody who is like too far on the other end of the spectrum there.
Yep.
And I think that's why Hayes looks so good here with this group. And, the last 2 games, Ham has gone to Hayes and AD lineups twice in these last 2 games. And, I think that's led to fewer Spencer Dinwiddie minutes. And I think that has led to, fewer Taurean Prince minutes, although Prince tonight played 24. The magical number 24. The Lakers won because he didn't get to 25. But
Right.
it's I think Hayes, he makes me nervous for a playoff setting because I think he's very easy to take advantage of for some of these better teams. But for right now and for what the Lakers need out of that kind of backup center, and just like for the sake of a motor deficit that the Lakers kind of operate at a lot of times, I think Hayes is very important in that way.
Yeah.
Anything else that you wanted to get to before we get
Well,
you out of here?
yeah, I just again like I see all the Darvin Ham, slander. I just think like I've liked these last few games from him. Like he had the offense defense subs right against Milwaukee to close that game.
Milwaukee.
Took out Austin D'Lo, put in the defensive guys so we can switch those ball screens more. And again, I like the kind of defensive lineups he went with tonight as well. He's not a great, awesome coach. I think this team has at least enough, and LeBron and AD, I think, believe in this team enough to where I think they'll go to war, at least for themselves and hopefully for this team, and we'll see for the coach. But I've liked the process, Anthony. I think we're going on the right track here. We found the correct. I don't think this starting lineup's changing at least. Like even if Vando gets
No,
back, I think this is the
that's it.
lineup we're gonna kind of live, not die, but live with hopefully, and go forward with. So I think they found at least the correct starters, and the bench will continue to flip and change as games go. But are we turning the corner? We'll see. But we definitely see the corner. Like it's right there.
Yeah.
It's right in front of us. Yeah.
You personally would like pass up the corner and be like, hey, maybe I can get the next corner because I don't want to cut this person off here.
Right. Yeah.
I would honk and get into that corner and be able to turn.
Okay. All right.
But
Yeah.
Darth Dan with an important point here. I guess I was doing that off the top of the head. So most talented Lakers I have ever seen in my life. Most talented and most dominant, Shaq is there. Like he is the most dominant player I've ever seen. So that is a very good point, worth noting. Kobe, LeBron, AD, that's the four. That's like Mount Rushmore of just purely talented basketball players. I love Pau, one of my favorite players of all time, but he is not as talented as those guys. Like just not,
No.
like he's a great player. He was a huge impact player. He outplayed KG in a final series, and he outplayed Dwight Howard in a playoff series. An incredible player. But like if I had to list the most just purely talented players, those are my four.
Is AD the most talented defensive player to ever wear a Laker jersey? Just in pure like the of all facets of the defensive end that he can do. He has to
Yeah.
be, right? You remember his switch and block shots, and like 7 steals is so absurd for that kind of guy. Like the amount of anticipation you would need to get 7 steals on this Minnesota team, like, and he gets like 5 steal games regularly. Like I think he's at least the most talented defensive guy, right? Like even if you don't put him in the most talented player, like I think at least defensively, that's the most talented
Yeah.
player I've seen play.
Yeah, like Shaq was insanely dominant, but he got picked on by pick and roll guards and smaller, quicker guards. They would go into Damon Stoudemire always lit the Lakers on fire because you would put Shaq in a pick and roll, and there just like wasn't as much that he could do. His feet just didn't move in the way that like ADs can.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think the next closest to AD, like in terms of like on average, what he was capable of doing as a Laker.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're talking about like over the course of their careers, like at their peak, LeBron is the next
Sure.
closest to Anthony Davis as a
Yeah,
defender.
that's true.
But as a Laker, and what we saw from him as a Laker, and on average, Kobe was nuts as a defender. Like
Sure.
I know it became a kind of hipster Twitter point to make that like he was on too many all defensive teams or whatever. Like whatever, like enjoy
Yeah.
your
So annoying.
likes and retweets or whatever. But the fact that Kobe would carry the burden that he had on him offensively, and then also guard the other team's best perimeter player, night in, night out, was just we do not see that anymore. You
Right.
don't
Yeah.
see it. Like all of these high usage guys now get hid. They get hidden defensively, whether it's Steph, whether it's Luka, whether it's even LeBron,
Yeah.
sometimes like Harden. I can go on down the line. Booker, like all of these guys, there is nobody in the NBA who functions the way that Kobe did at his peak, where he was the team's engine offensively and he was their point of attack, not just defender, but like
Yeah.
shutdown dude. He was the guy, he in the most Kobe fashion, he said that he studied great white sharks to be able to guard Allen Iverson, right? But he
Yeah.
still was able, like when it came time to guard Allen Iverson and slow down or even shut down Allen Iverson, it was Kobe. And then he also carried the same burden that he did offensively. That dude, like that's why you can make a real argument in terms of just like raw talented players. Like Kobe might be number one. Like,
Yeah, he was.
like the stuff that he was doing on both ends of the court, it at his absolute peak, you just do not see anymore.
That competitiveness of that era, because like now we have too many, obviously the medical stuff that you don't want. Like we're lucky. I remember it was a Clippers Minnesota game, and I was like, yeah, we'll get lucky if we get 5 minutes of Kawhi and Anthony Edwards, right? Like you want to
Yeah,
see that matchup, and they sell that, they promo that as the matchup, and it's really like Edwards is attacking Norm Powell for a lot of the
yeah,
game, right? Like it's not really the matchup you want. But back in, not to say back in my day, but I remember when Kobe and T Mac did their interview, and they were talking about how they guarded each other from the tip.
mhm,
It was Kobe versus T
and they
Mac one
looked
on one.
forward to it too. They knew
Exactly
that they
right.
were gonna do that, and they did it, and then they look back on it, and it's like, "Man, that was incredible."
Yeah, like and now you don't get that as much just because of saving the legs for later, and you talked about hiding these high-powered offensive engines because of all the work they have to do on that end. So yeah, Kobe definitely. I think 80's just the overall best in terms of what he can do on the floor. But yeah, Kobe, LeBron obviously in his prime, and even LeBron in 2020, Anthony, that was a absolute master,
Yeah.
defender. Like that was our floor was so high because you had those two guys. So yeah, some great defenders on the Lakers, but 80's right there. He's right up there and just in talent, and I think he's a generational defender. I think he's still showing that.
Yeah, like the stuff that we see or we used to see from Kobe on a nightly basis. And honestly, I think the league misses that. Like, I think
Hmm.
the league misses, those, because we've all been in a building where, the two best players are guarding each other on the perimeter, and they're ISO'd off. Everybody
Hmm.
is looking at this possession, right? And you get that like kind of like buzz. It's an actual
Oh yeah,
buzz, right?
through the arena.
That goes
Yeah.
through the arena. Everybody's like, ooh. And you could like see everybody kind of like sit up in their chairs, like, oh,
Hmm.
okay.
Hmm.
Like let's see what this looks like, and sometimes the offensive player gets the better of the defensive player there. And then if they do, that the other guy is gonna ask for the ball and be like,
Hmm.
give me it. I'm going to go back at this guy in particular, right? Like you use the Kobe T Mac example, but Kobe
Yeah.
used to do that in All Star games against LeBron, right?
Hmm.
And in regular season games against LeBron, where it was just it was it's just it's an approach to basketball. I think that is like genuinely missed in this, and
100%.
it's something that like the league needs to figure out a way to get back to it. I think it's impossible because it's not smart. It's not necessarily like the smartest way to implement Kobe on a random Wednesday night in March. But that said, like if you're talking about the most entertaining version of the sport, and if the point of this stuff is to entertain, right? Like I'm a Vikings fan, and if you have like an absolute shutdown corner matched up against Justin Jefferson for the entirety of that game, I am watching that matchup all
Hmm.
game. That is
Yeah.
that is I'm not starting with I'm not watching the quarterback with the ball. I'm not doing anything else. So long as I can, until they are off of the screen, I'm going to see the release at the line of scrimmage. I want to see like as many replays of those guys going at it. I want to listen to them talking shit to each other over the course
Yeah.
of the game. Like I remember also another example of this was in the steroid era, so you had like two fucking juice heads going at it. But I remember like Eric Gagne, a Dodgers closer, who was like breaking records for consecutive games closed, and it just was like unhittable. Right, he was roided to the max, but so were the guys that he was facing, and he went up against Barry Bonds, and Barry Bonds was at the peak of his powers, and you had these two just like this incredible moment. You could find it on YouTube. And it's just like foul ball after foul ball after foul ball. And then Gagne makes one mistake and Bond sends him deep. And it's just like I obviously I didn't like the outcome because I'm a Dodgers fan and the Giants guy just like knocked hit a homer in a
Yeah.
key moment in the baseball game. But it's also like I will never forget that feeling. I will never, ever, ever forget
Yeah.
it. And like we are truly blessed. I think, again, because hipster Twitter has made it so like it's lessened since Kobe died. And it sucks that it
Sure.
literally took Kobe dying for us to
Right. For
get
the
here.
appreciation. Mhm.
Yeah. But like, Lakers fans are always going to feel a different way about Kobe because of that stuff. And I think like the league genuinely misses Kobe's voice and all of this all-star stuff, the way that they approach and the way that they have basically made All-Star Weekend a fucking joke would not have happened if Kobe was here still.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I always say this. So my favorite game. So I've been in a bunch of Laker games, but my favorite one, because I think we've traded a lot of the stuff we're asking for, Anthony, for points, right? So like the league has kind of really try to make things not easier, but in terms of this to like increase the
Easier. You
scoring
could say
and
easier.
yeah, like
Yeah.
taking out the hand touching and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've traded a lot of this like competitive nature for a very league that really wants to incentivize scoring. But my favorite game I've ever been to, Lakers Blazers. This is Brandon Roy at the peak of his powers, right? So as
Mhm.
peak as that was, sadly that ended, but Brandon Roy at the peak of his powers, and obviously this was Lakers 09 team, so the title team, and Brandon Roy and Kobe are just trading haymaker after haymaker, and like
Yeah.
the crowd and no one would dare Anthony to try to guard the other. Like I'm to like someone else on the court, be like,
Not
I got
guard.
Roy or not
Yeah.
guard that, right? Like so Kobe was gonna guard Brandon Roy and Brandon Roy was gonna guard Kobe. And like obviously this is not a very ball screen heavy era, but those two are just going one-on-one and there's not a ton of help coming. It's just this is me versus him, and it was back and forth. And again, the score here, the final score, I think, is 97-89. Not a soul in that building, Anthony, would be like, that was boring basketball or not enough points,
Yeah.
right? Those two is going back and forth, and not obviously, but Kobe gets the upper hand. He hits the final fadeaway to put us up, I think, 5 with 30 seconds, and Kobe goes berserk, right? Just
Yeah.
throwing up his jersey for the whole crowd, and it's the best game I've ever been to. It's my favorite game that I've seen in person. And obviously, Brandon Roy, brilliant player at the time, unguardable with 3-level scoring. And those dudes just haymaker after haymaker. And like the best we've gotten from that in the last, I would say, 3-4 years is a rookie sophomore game between Dion Waiters and Tim Hardaway Jr. And that gets like pumped up every year, just a ton of numbers on Twitter. But that's the best we get in terms of mano y mano now in these regular season matchups. When was the last like mano y mano regular season kind of you score? Oh, it's my turn. Like I need to get back from there. Like you just don't see it that often. And I agree, that's like very disappointing. But yeah, like Kobe used to do that all the time with a ton of matchups, and he'd take it personally. And I miss that. And you can hear it on Gilbert Arenas. Gilbert Arenas says a lot of crazy stuff, but his Kobe stories are very like, no, you don't get it. This guy
Yeah.
was a psychopath who
Oh
wanted to
man.
win. You had no
That was the
chance.
point that Pete and I used to make all the time is like, I give 2 fucks how all these
Yeah.
other nerds feel about
Right.
Kobe. You listen to like
Right.
other NBA players talk about Kobe and that
Yeah.
reverence that they talk about
His true
Kobe, the
shooting
basketball
percentage.
player. Yeah,
Yeah.
he wasn't clutch because he missed a bunch of clutch shots. It's like,
You have no clue.
where's a locker I can throw you into? Like, but
Right.
like to me, I've always felt, and I'm a purist about this. I'm an absolutionist about this. The point of professional sports is to entertain.
Mhm.
We are like, and now that has given way because these organizations, the point of their existence is to win. And
Mhm.
entertainment has fallen by the wayside as these organizations and as these entities have like figured out the sport.
Mhm.
And I think that it like in baseball, they literally had to like ban the shift because these defenses and the statisticians had figured out, well, if we just stand this guy where that batter, statistically speaking, hits the ball more often than not, then we are going to, that is going to make us better at defense, but it is going to make the sport more boring because
Mm.
the best baseball plays actually ironically happen on defense. Those guys who like sprint into the gap at shortstop and have to turn and jump to throw the Jeter throw across the diamond and all that stuff. Those guys like robbing homers, and jumping out, like running up a wall, like literally running up a wall, like you would see in some anime show, right? Like literally like 1, 2, 3, 4 up a wall to go up and
Yeah,
get catch a baseball in midair. That was kind of taken away, and Major League Baseball, to their credit, said, okay, we got to calm down with the shifts because we want to see these athletes do athletic shit. And
sure.
I do kind of wonder, like, we'll never see this, but like, it would be cool, just like, all right, in an all-star game, you guard your position, period. No switching, nothing else. Like, you're a point guard, you're guarding the point guard. You're a shooting guard, you're guarding the shooting guard. There is
Oh,
no like, I want to see these guys go back and forth at each other and see whatever we can, like, do whatever we can do to elicit those kinds of moments more often than we currently get them.
I think the bar is way lower than that. I think fans, Anthony, at least fans like me, who I don't like. I feel like most fans aren't watching a full All-Star game anyway. But we just want 1 quarter of legit basketball. 1 quarter. Like, give me the fourth quarter is fine. Like, whenever you want
Yeah.
to do it, just play hard for 1 quarter. Like, I remember when I was growing up, but like, not to say it like that, but like the All-Star game used to be, oh,
Dinwiddie.
yeah, what are the matchups? Like, oh, like Kobe's gonna guard whoever the Eastern
No, the
team was,
Kobe
and oh, like,
LeBron game. Remember that when,
yeah,
like,
oh yeah,
like LeBron's bringing the ball up the court and Kobe's like slamming the ground. He's like,
mm-hmm.
come on, come at me, let's go, and
I
it's
think
just
he
like,
kicked it out. I remember LeBron kicked it out, and Kobe was
or there was
pissed.
another play, like, I think it was in that same game where Kobe blocked him at the top of the key,
Mhm,
right? And then
mhm,
after he blocked him, he was actually like yelling at LeBron, like, "No, we need more from you. I
mhm,
want more
yeah,
from you.
and he's
That's
not
not
even
the
on his
best that you could
team.
do. Come on, like, come on,
Yeah,
let's
he wasn't
fucking
even on his
go."
team. He
Yeah,
wasn't even on
and
his
it's like,
team. He's like, "Yeah, you gotta
yeah,
be better."
yeah, but he was right. He was
100%.
objectively correct.
Yeah,
Like, that is like what the game needs more of, is LeBron James in that moment, that was pretty damn close to like the peak of LeBron James' athletic powers, right? And
mhm,
Kobe is there saying, "Come on, man,
mhm,
come on, come
yeah,
at me. I'm gonna go at you. You
right,
like, you better get up on me here. You better get one up on me here, because I'm gonna fuck you up at the other end, and like, and that's the kind of stuff that, like, come on, I want more of that. Like, I think my favorite moment this year was LeBron picking up Kawhi at the very beginning of the first, or one, an earlier Clipper game that we saw the Lakers
yep,
play in there. It set a tone, and the rest of the Lakers out there was like, he is not messing around here. He's
yep,
guarding
yep,
Kawhi. And
yeah,
I also think, like, that also had a reverberating effect on the Clippers, where they're like, oh,
mhm,
I mean, LeBron's here for this one,
yeah, yeah,
and like that, I want more of that. These guys are so individually talented and so incredibly talented. Like, I love the way that Wemby goes at Chet, where he's like,
yes,
this guy is my competition for Rookie of the Year. I am
mhm,
fucking him up. Like, that
yeah,
guy
yeah,
is not doing anything in this game.
yeah.
And like that, that kind of competitive fire is so needed and so welcomed when you see it.
Yeah, 100%. I love that Wemby also, it's not a friendly thing. He's like, "No, we're not cool." Like,
No,
you're
yeah,
not at all. Like, we are not we are I mean, you don't have to go that far, but Wemby's just like, "No, we are like, you're my arch enemy in this kind of rookie of the year thing. I'm going to kill you. I'm gonna put up 28, 7, and 10, and I'm not shaking your hand after. Like, we're going down, and I'm gonna kill you again next time." I love that competitive fire, and I think that's what this like league, needs, and like whoever the next face is, and LeBron's still, at whatever powers he's at, and Steph's still where he's at. And Steph's another one, Anthony, that's a psycho like competitive MFer that I think people don't
yeah.
understand, because he just
He's
has
so
that
baby
face.
faced.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's baby, but that dude will like not only beat you but also laugh at you while doing it. And I just
maniacal.
like the maniacal, and that's the stuff that and he can't do it defensively as the way these guys can, but it's not just competitive fire, man. And you're right, the All-Star game is like a representation of that, where it's like a joke. Like, these guys are just running up and down and dunking, and there's just no like fire or fun in that. The best thing we've got was that, the Kobe Memorial kind of all-star game, where
Yeah,
they had the target score, and that was like a competitive, super competitive game that we actually iced with Anthony Davis free throws. But yeah, it's definitely missing from the game, and hopefully we get it a little bit in the playoffs. But yeah, the regular season and the 82 game kind of grind, there were just very few moments that
yeah.
have that like they used to.
All right, before we get out of here, Brandon, thank you for the reminder. I meant to come back to it. I forgot. My apologies, but we do have one more super chat here, which means I get to play that one more time. I'm gonna do it a bonus time because I missed it earlier. Brandon writes, "Are you concerned about Spencer Dinwiddie? Also, do you think Wood overtakes Hayes when he returns? If Vando returns, I doubt we see much. I mean, Cam got a DNP-CD tonight, so or no, was he available?
Well, he
Was
was
he healthy?
hurt. No, he was out. He was out.
Okay,
Wasn't available tonight.
I don't. I think the Cam thing is done because he got a DNP-CD the other night. Not that I don't think Cam is like physically incapable of coming back this year. I think they're done waiting for Cam. Like
Mm.
it's a bummer that his body doesn't appear willing to cooperate with him. And you've reached a point of the season here where you can't keep hoping that the guy comes back. I think they have enough, at least offensively, to just kind of say, best of luck next year, bud. But look, I know we keep on talking about Vando's return, and I have sensed a little bit more optimism on that front. But I continue to be told that they're kind of operating as if he probably isn't coming back. I'll say this. At the time of his injury and in the subsequent like few weeks or so, it was like he is done. Done. Like was the tone and tenor of what I was getting from the organization then. And then recently there has been like, well, we'll see, we aren't going to completely rule anything out. I think we're supposed to get an update on Vando this week. So we'll see what that looks like. But there is a little bit like it went from he is out to he's probably out, but we're still going to keep testing him to see how that looks like. But if Vando returns, I think that's the end of Spencer Dinwiddie's minutes.
Ooh.
I think he winds up taking either Dinwiddie or Prince. One of those two guys wind up missing out completely because I think they really need his skill set. And you're not going to play Austin. You're not going to play D'Lo. Ruy is a made man at this point. You have LeBron and AD for sure. Maybe you say he takes Hayes' minutes, but I actually think that the Lakers really like the two big setup here with AD and Jackson. And I think they like what Jackson looks like with D'Lo and with LeBron.
Yeah.
I don't think like we'll see what this week looks like for Wood. We're supposed to we are in terms of just the schedule, we were supposed to get an update on Wood. The fact that we haven't even gotten him be questionable, he has just been out throughout all of this with that knee inflammation, would indicate to me that it's a little bit more serious and they let on in the first place. And again, just kind of like with Cam, I think Hayes has played well enough to where the coaching staff and the team just kind of moved on. But we'll see. He's a talented enough guy. I think he's popular enough in the locker room that they would maybe give him another shot. But Hayes has played really well. And Raj, are you concerned about Dinwiddie though? What's there to be concerned about, do you think?
So it's weird. Dinwiddie is kind of flipped what I thought his role would be. He's much more of a defensive guard. We're kind of using him more as a defensive ace than an offensive kind of offensive creator. And obviously that run that they went on tonight, 13 Minnesota went on tonight, 10-0 run, and it was 20-5. A lot of that was Dinwiddie unable to create any good offense, got no separation off screens. His floater is completely gone. He's taking contested threes, even when he's hitting them. So his offense has really been lost, but his defense, Anthony, which is why I think he'll still play. He probably just eats up all of Max Christie's minutes. Torian's minutes probably get diluted a little bit with Vando coming back. But I think Dinwiddie's kind of going to continue in the rotation. Vando's putting, again, I know how to read into this stuff. But Vando's putting progress posts on Instagram, his own. And I just wonder if he would do that if he wasn't at least closer. He's at least letting on that he's closer. And this is me just reading in, obviously, but he's just letting on that he's a little bit closer than it would appear. My thing with this type of stuff, Anthony, Vando doesn't have an offensive role. You know what I mean? So I feel like his return, like his progression should be faster than most that are returning. Like he doesn't have to get in any offensive rhythm. He doesn't have to get in a shooting rhythm. He obviously has to get in a 5-on-5 cardio rhythm, but I think that's a little bit easier to implement for a guy that's just high motor and obviously is going to be the defensive workhorse, and you have to be healthy to do that. It's just I feel like he can kind of be plug-in, kind of you can plug him in a little easier than, let's say, if Gabe Vincent was coming back in a week. You're like, well, where does Gabe Vincent fit? Where does it offensive touches fit? Vando, you can just be like, hey, Vando, go in, run around for 20 minutes, see if you can change the pace of the game, change the kind of identity of how the game is going. And if that doesn't work, we have other options to go to. Like you said, Christian Wood probably will be back in the next week or so if his injury isn't as bad as they are letting on. But yeah, I think just having it's never bad to add more talent, as you always say. Like you're adding a $13 million player if Vanderbilt comes back. So I think that's important. I think he's a huge piece of like the defensive role of this team. But Spencer Dinwiddie, I'm not as worried. I think he's a guy you can plug in, play, and I've liked his defensive effort so far. Had the game-winning block on Dame. He's bought in defensively, at least for now, even with his offense kind of stalling. I just don't think he's good enough anymore, like right now, offensively, to give him units to run. And hopefully they learned that tonight because they tried to give him that third quarter unit to run, and that failed pretty miserably. So we'll see with him, but I'm not concerned. We have other options than Dinwiddie if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, like I think the defense has been way better than I thought, and
Mm-hmm.
the offense has been way worse than I thought.
Sure.
So worried. I guess I'm not all that worried because I don't think he's that important a player in on this roster. I think they have more than enough in terms of like creativity and on ball stuff to be able to get by without Dinwiddie. And I think the especially if Vando comes back, like I just don't really see a role for Dinwiddie. LeBron's going to spend more time on the ball. Dinwiddie like is a terrible spot up shooter. So I just don't really see it there. But I also possible that they promised him something and that obviously complicates things.
Yep.
All right. That is going to do it here for this episode. Longer episode because of the fun weekend that the Lakers just had. This episode of the Lakers Lounge. The way that this week is going to play out, have a couple guests here lined up potentially. And then, the biggest thing here is just kind of focusing on these games. We are in the thick of this playoff run, like, trying to get out of certain seeds and trying to make, squeeze into, hopefully the sixth spot. I don't know how well that's going to work out, but they're certainly going to try. That has been their goal. They stated it very clearly at the All-Star break that they want to get up to like at least the sixth spot. And we'll see how capable they are of doing that. And they have the opportunity here to go on a bit of a run, right? See how things go against Sacramento, but Golden State, they've had success against. Atlanta is not very good. Philly is not very good right now without Embiid. Indiana just lost Mathurin. So, they've been playing pretty good basketball, but I think Halliburton has kind of struggled of late as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then you already beat Milwaukee without LeBron. So, and then after that, you have Memphis and Indiana again. So like you have a bit of a stretch here where you can do a little bit of damage. The problem with these Lakers are if it isn't a team that they respect, that game is really hard to predict. So we'll see what their approach to all of these are going to be like. So until we see what that looks like, and until the next time you guys hear from me, I'm Anthony Irwin. That was Raj Shapalu. This has been the Lakers Lounge. Have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's. Please subscribe, rate, review, all of those good things. We have 2,700 people tuned in right now. If you are tuned in, if you're a brand new listener or viewer of this, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. And I will talk to you the next time I talk to you. Thanks, Raj.
Mm-hmm.